please, please bring Snooks back. There has to be a better way for us to solve our differences than this way.
Hi guys, welcome back to our crime series Case Closed. Today, we'll be diving into the case of John and Linda Sohus, and the mystery that left even the best investigators speechless. So, let's get into it. In the mid-90s, Stanford graduate Sandra Boss was getting her MBA at Harvard when her sister introduced her to a man named Clark Rockefeller, descendant of the famous business family founded by John D. Rockefeller. He wore custom-made designer clothing, collected expensive art, and had an upscale New York apartment. With this being said, it didn't take long before Sandra was charmed, and the two began dating. Fast forwards a couple years, and before you knew it, they had tied the knot and the two married shortly thereafter. To give you some quick background, Clark was born in Germany in 1961 and moved to the United States in the late 1970s. He developed a fascination with high society and the wealthy, often posing as a member of the Rockefeller family to gain access to elite social circles. Sandra and Clark spent the next 11 years together. They enjoyed a stable life, thanks in large part to Sandra's job as a consultant in personal wealth. The two had a daughter, Ray Storrow Mills Rockefeller, in 2001. However, shortly after the birth of their daughter, their marriage soon began to crack. This is because Clark was a stay-at-home dad and didn't hesitate to spend his money to keep up his appearances. His stories and excuses to why he wasn't working but still spending money became inconsistent. Sandra was often baffled when Rockefeller would suddenly insist, seemingly out of the blue, that they needed to move house. And weirdly, this wasn't the only time he said this. Sandra served Clark with divorce papers in 2007, since her husband was jobless and his personal life was a complete mystery. Linda was awarded full custody of their daughter and was more focused on trying to move on without him. Fast forward a year, and in 2008, Clark Rockefeller was enjoying one of the 3 court-approved visitations with his daughter as his ex-wife waited in a Boston hotel room nearby. While walking through Boston Common, Rockefeller disappeared with his daughter. But where did he take her? As investigators attempted to track down Rockefeller, they found more questions than answers. He didn't have a social security card, a driver's license, or even a credit card in his own name. When his picture was shown on the news asking for leads, callers gave at least 4 different identities to go with the man shown on screen. Investigators were flummoxed. This was so scary for Sandra too, especially because it finally seemed like they were getting their lives back on track. Soon after investigators started diving deeper into the case of their missing daughter, a friend, Julie Gotchard, would come forward with what would become crucial evidence in this case. It turns out Clark had had a glass of wine at his house the night before, and the glass had not been washed. Police lifted fingerprints off the glass, hoping that it would bring them closer to finding Clark, and luckily enough, this was it. The fingerprint that collected was one that matched one of the names on their system. However, this was not Clark. Weirdly, it was a man named Christian Karl Gerhard Streiter, a German immigrant who had come to the United States almost 30 years earlier. After a 5-day manhunt for him and his kidnapped daughter, Christian had changed his identity once again, becoming a man named Chip Smith. However, his newest alias didn't last long. The owner of the carriage house he rented called investigators, and police raided the house shortly after and found Christian with his daughter. Ray was safely returned to her mother, while Christian was finally taken into custody. With Christian in police custody, the investigation into the Sohus murders was reopened. It was determined that he had killed John Sohus and buried his body in the backyard of the guest house. Meanwhile, in a very tragic case of events, Linda's fate remained a mystery, as her body was never found. During the trial, it was revealed that Christian had killed John because he feared John had discovered his true identity and was going to expose him. Christian's defense team argued that Linda was the true killer and that she had disappeared to avoid being caught. However, there was no evidence to support this theory. In 2013, Christian aka Clark was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to 27 years to life in prison. The case remains one of the most baffling and intriguing true crime cases in recent history. In conclusion, Christian Karl Gerhard Streiter's murder of Linda Sohus is a chilling reminder of the dangers of deception and the lengths some people will go to maintain their illusions. We can only hope that justice has been served for John and Linda Sohus and that their memory will live on. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.